Hello, Ross Bossy here from Chantilly High School. In this webcast, I'm going to show you a couple tricks of how we can assess DBQs in an efficient manner and make it a learning process for students. Our learning targets are to understand that assessment can be of and for learning, and to discover how Google Apps tools can be used to facilitate assessment for learning. Authentic assessment is the evaluation of a student's ability to perform real-world tasks that demonstrate meaningful application of essential knowledge and skills. If you've been through the introduction training provided by FCPS on DBQs, you know that DBQs really are a great opportunity for students to be able to demonstrate application and a way for us to assess their knowledge and skills. Assessment can be for learning and it can be of learning. We tend to think of it as more of the of learning when we're talking about summative or formative assessment. But for learning kind of takes assessment a little bit further, and it becomes a teaching tool that students can learn further from. So we know that we're teaching the DBQ. We would like to see some growth and to figure out if they are learning along the way. So these tools that you're about to see enable us to do that. Getting started is a piece of cake. There's a couple tools that are Google add-ons called Doctopus and Gubrick, and we're going to get started to show you how to use those right now. Okay, here I am in Google Chrome. You're going to want to make sure you are working in Chrome or these plugins will not work. Before we get started, I just want to show you where these plugins are created. They come from New Vision's Cloud Lab, as you see here on this website. Just Google this site and you will get to it, and then click on add-ons and you will see Doctopus, which is the first application we're going to be working with. I'm showing you this here because there are tutorial videos, if you scroll down, on how to set everything up. I'm not going to be showing you how to set everything up, just the process of working with DBQs. So for more detailed instructions on how to install Doctopus and its inner workings, you're going to want to go to this website and take a look at these tutorials. The other application we're going to be using is a Google Chrome plugin. It is called Gubrick. To get to that, you want to go to the apps in Chrome and then go to the Chrome Web Store, and then just do a simple search here for Gubrick. And once you do that search, it will show up right here. You see Gubrick Web Launcher. I already have it installed, but you not having it installed will see this blue Add to Chrome button like you see for these other applications. Once you do have that installed, you will be good to go to continue where I'm about to start this presentation. So if you've been using Google Classroom, you know that it's a great way to organize assignments and for students to turn in assignments. So this is where I have students turn in assignments, and the two applications I'm going to be using work with Google Classroom. To start off, to get an assignment, you want to start with a new, clean Google spreadsheet. Just like we've done here. We want to name this, of course. So the DBQ that I am assessing here is the role of the president in lawmaking, DBQ. And the next step, up in the menu bar up here, click on add-ons, and once you have installed Doctopus, you will see it right here. If you do not have it installed, you want to click on Get Add-ons, and then over here in the search box, do a search for Doctopus, and you'll want to install it by clicking the blue free button as you see here for these other add-ons. But again, I already have it installed, so I am going to click on Doctopus and then I'm going to click on Launch. Now, depending on your internet connection, this will take a few moments to load. once it does load, you'll see that there are directions here. It's laid out, it's fairly user-friendly. You have the ability to create your own class rosters, but again, you don't need to do that if you are actually using Google Classroom. So for step one, what we want to do here is select Ingest Google CR Assignment. So this is going to pull information from your roster that's already created in Google Classroom. Once you do that, you got to select the class that you want to pull information from your Google Classroom. I'm going to select this class right here. And then the next step is to select the assignment that you would like to use. And we got Role of the President in the Lawmaking Process, DBQ. And that will take a moment to pull in those assignments. While I'm waiting for this to load, there's some organization you might want to do up front once you have this spreadsheet loaded. It will just help with usability of it. Alright, now this is loaded. It says here there's 26 turned in files for the assignment, 4 not yet turned in. I always leave this box to only ingest files that are turned in unchecked. That way I have access to student files regardless of whether they actually click the turn in button on their assignment. Sometimes they forget to turn in the assignment, but they've had it completed. This way I can still at least access their files. So go ahead and click Ingest Assignment. And again, this will take a couple moments. But as you see the spreadsheet populating here, you'll see that student information has come through. Alright, so the next step is to attach a rubric, or what we call a rubric. And I already have a rubric already created. It's called Evidence and Argument Rubric, because that's what we're focused on in this DBQ. Setting up a rubric is pretty simple. You set it up in a spreadsheet, and the tutorials that are available through the New Visions website show you how to do it. It's fairly straightforward. So as I attach this rubric, your rubric, you just want to make sure that you have categories that have been assigned a weighted value. The information that is here now that this is loaded, you can display some data through this menu. You could also look for new submissions. You can add co-teachers if you are in a team taught situation, and you can also send feedback email to students. But we've got this loaded now, so I can go ahead and close this. What you see here is students' names, their email address, or their user ID. The assignment is keyed with a file key that's a unique indicator, and that's something that the plugin uses to access files. You don't really need to worry about that. So a lot of times what I do is I don't need access to their email addresses right here. So I'll actually just collapse all of these columns so that I have a little bit more space for the information that I actually need access to. Alright, so I've collapsed that stuff so I can see all the rubric over here. Written feedback, use of documents for evidence, argument, and then any comments you give. The count will indicate how many times you've actually graded that assignment. And the grade is something you will set up. This is as simple as, depending on whether you want to have an average rubric score or you want to add up the scores and make it out of so many points, This is easy to do with simply adding right here a sum or average function, and just calculate these two columns and it will automatically generate a grade for you. So that's fairly straightforward. So I'm going to go to an assignment. I'm going to click on a student assignment right here, and you'll see that it'll go right to the student's work. And you can see that I've graded this in the past, but I'm going to delete this so that I can show you what it will look like on your end. Alright, so here's the student's paragraph. Now, to point a couple things out, to grade this, if you have Gubrick installed in Chrome, you're going to see the logo for it right up here. It's this little eyeball. Just go ahead and click on that, and it's going to open a new tab or a new window, depending on how you have your browser set up. And the rubric is going to show up across the top. You see that there is the rubric for the first category, use of documents or evidence, and then if you click on the other tab, you have argument. This is simple to do. You can read through the student's work. You can simply choose by clicking if you would like to add maybe a 2.5 as opposed to a 2 or a 3. You can type it into the little box up here, and it will highlight both columns. You can go to the other category. Say the student has a pretty good argument, so we're going to give a 3. There's a little bit of work that could be done. And you could leave a comment, for example. Pretty good start. Be clear about how your evidence proves your thesis. Oops. All right. So we get an overall comment. If there's specific comments you want to leave, for example, we like students to provide proper citations. So we could leave a note to say to use in-text citations rather than describing the document. And any other comments you want to leave, you're free to leave those comments. Back up here in the Doctopus or the Gubrick menu, you can choose to email the scores to students. You can change students from can view to can comment on submit. Why you want to do that, you could click here, but the simple reason why you want to do that is so that they can actually respond to your comments. And then auto advance on submit will take you to the next student. So I'm going to this student. This is DBQ has already been graded and sent back. So I'm not going to email those scores again, but I'm going to click submit, and you will see that it comes up once it loads. It will come up to the next student who in your spreadsheet has completed the assignment. The one thing you're going to want to do so that students can actually edit their assignment is you're going to want to go back to your Google Classroom assignment, and you're going to want to return all of the assignments. And you can simply do that by checking all the boxes and clicking return. If you want to leave some general comments, you can do that here as well. Once you've returned the assignment, students now have the ability to actually edit their document again, because once they turn an assignment in on Google Classroom, they lose the ability to edit the document while it's in waiting to be graded. So back here in the spreadsheet, you'll see that there is the 2 columns here for the rubric. You want to format this for yourself, feel free to do that. If you want to add a grade here, let's just say we're going to do an average score. So you could just add a function. I'm going to average, and then you're going to do a shift and click for these 2 columns and then hit enter, and you will see that it will average the 2 scores together for an overall grade. One thing you could do is you can actually drag this formula down, and it will automatically, as soon as you have data available, will automatically calculate the score once data is populated in these 2 columns as you go through and grade student assignments. Right now it just says this error code because there's no data to actually average. So the nice thing about this is that, let me go back to the document. You'll see that the rubric gets placed at the bottom of the document along with your comments. If you check that box to have it emailed to students, it will also get emailed. So the trick is to, at the beginning of the school year, to go over your rubric with students. So here's the rubric that I was using. If you review with students the language of the rubric, you can actually save a lot of time by not having to give as many specific comments in their document as you normally would. The idea and the way to make DBQs in this way assessment for learning is that students can look at their writing, they can look at the rubric, and they can figure out what they need to improve upon. And it becomes a learning process for them. But again, that's not really possible if they don't understand the language of the rubric. So it's key to make the rubric user-friendly for students and review it with them often. We have a general DBQ rubric that we use for all DBQs, but when we're doing these short writings, like a 1-paragraph response for this DBQ, we may focus on just using evidence, or in this case, using evidence and argument. If you're just looking for an intro paragraph and you want to see if they have a good thesis statement, you can just use the part of the rubric that is the thesis statement. So this is a pretty efficient way of doing this. Plus, it enables the teacher to collect the data. Whether you're using DBQs as your personal smarter goal, or as a department you want to track student data to see improvement, or just to show students their improvement over the course of the school year, this is a perfect way to track this data. It can be exported. You can go to File, Download As. You can export this as an Excel file, and the data could actually be added to the data wall if your department or your school uses a data wall for various assessments. But there's a number of other ways you could use this, but this is the most basic way to use this program. And it's a very effective way to assess DBQs. It cuts down on paper load, obviously. Students are using Google Classroom and Google Docs to be able to complete the assignments. It saves a lot of time on the teacher's end of standing at the copy machine. It also makes it easier to read papers. I know I always have the problem trying to decipher student handwriting. It just makes the process of grading that much longer. But everything's typed, it's nice and neat, and it's easy to get through the assessment process. And the idea is to turn these around as quickly as possible so that students can actually learn from their writing process and improve. So again, to find out how to actually install these and the inner workings of them, but as you saw from the screencast, it's pretty simple. Go to the Cloud Lab website, and there are tutorial videos that go step by step and show you how to install and use each of the tools.